All right, everybody, can everybody hear me? You know, if you, looking from where I am right here, I'm really feeling very small right now. I mean, this is really, I'm usually pretty small. That's not any different, but wow, this is very intimidating down here. So anyway, thank you, welcome. We're looking forward to a great presentation today. I think this is a topic we really haven't spent much time on in the past, and I think what we've gone through to try to get this presentation together, I think it's going to be an excellent program for everybody. But before we get started, I kind of like to just make a couple quick announcements of some things that are going on with our company and some things that are going on that will impact both us as well as with you. So the first thing is that I wanted to mention was Tamarack. So you've probably been hearing me talk about Tamarack at every meeting we've had, in all of our mailings, our correspondence. Tamarack is our kind of our way of our future, and you're going to be hearing this word a lot from us. Tamarack is our client portal that all of you are going to be able to access not only all your Schwab assets, but your PKS assets held with our broker-dealer. We also have the ability to hold any accounts outside of Schwab and PKS, so anything held at Vanguard or an outside brokerage account, they can be also linked and coordinated with Tamarack so that you can see them all on one consolidated website. And the nice part about that is that at any one point in time, you could go on and see what all your accounts are worth, what the value of your accounts are. You can see your asset allocation. You can see investment performance, you can see transactions, almost anything that you really want to see about your investment accounts, you can see as well as we can see. And I think that I encourage you all to get familiar with Tamarack because it's a really useful tool. The other thing that we're doing with Tamarack is that we're now in the process of trying to coordinate all of your estate documents, your insurance policies, your wills, your trust, power of attorneys, any of those documents. We're trying to incorporate those into Tamarack so that those all reside as copies in your vault, your electronic vault within Tamarack, so that you can go onto one website and see all of your investment assets and have all of your financial documents as well. And if you think about it, that could be a great service for you, for any of your family members or your beneficiaries, as well as for us in helping you to become very organized and efficient. So anyway, Tamarack is going to be a part of our future that is going to be with us, and we're going to be doing more and more with it, and we encourage you to get comfortable and familiar with it because it's an area that I think you're going to get a lot of good use out of. The second big thing that we want to talk about is our website. So Kelly's pulled up our website. And we've had a lot of fun in terms of redesigning our website. Hopefully you've all been on it. It's obviously PeteHoover.com. And when you go on the website, you'll see a very new and improved, fresh look in terms of what we've done. But we wanted to highlight just a couple quick things on there that hopefully you can go on and view yourself. So in the top right-hand corner, you see a thing called Client Access. So that will be the button that you would push to go on, and that would be where you could access Tamarack or where you can access Schwab. And one thing I did forget to mention about Tamarack is in the fourth quarter of this year, we're going to be coming out with a mobile app. So you'll be able to access Tamarack all through your smartphone anytime you want. So all your data will be right there, and I think that will be kind of neat as well. Going through the website a little more, going back to the home page, the second thing you'll find is a thing with a little picture with with me on it, which is a video that we've done, and we've sent this out to you, but we're really happy and proud of this video, so we wanted to take a moment and just share it with you and let you see the work that we've done with HFA going Hollywood here. We had a lot of fun putting that together, and we use that as a little tool for marketing and prospecting. But if you ever have any friends you want to share a good laugh with, that's certainly a video that we would love to have you show it off to your friends. One other thing that we're doing, going back to the homepage, is on the right side down, we have our recent news and resources, which is our blog. So we've been now, in writing documents and writing paragraphs and stories about various topics. We send them out every 2 weeks. We think they're very interesting for, what we're doing in our business, as well as some things that you might want to be interested in. You can see them through LinkedIn or through Google, but we're also sending them out via emails to you. So we encourage you to read those. I think they're interesting. I think they're informative, and I think there's a lot of good information there that we would encourage you to, to go on and to view at your leisure as well. The next thing I wanted to mention quickly was one of the new marketing initiatives that we're doing here. And you probably have been getting some sort of brochures, or not some sort, these brochures in the mail, and you're saying, why is Pete Hoover on the front of this cover, and what is he doing with this, and what's going on? So basically what we tried to do is write some case studies and of things that we're doing and how we have helped other clients and other prospective clients. And we encourage you to read the story. They're short stories. They take a minute or two to read. They're talking about John and Mary, and John and Mary are going through the life of what a financial planner does on an ongoing basis. And we encourage you to share these with your friends, your family, neighbors, whatever, about how we have helped you and hopefully how we can help some of your friends. We always appreciate your referrals, and we always appreciate your efforts in terms of helping us to build our business and how we can help to make that happen for some other people as well. How we do all this help is really a function of the team that we have in place. And a lot of them are standing up in the back of the room. So I'd like to take a minute and just acknowledge the team real fast. So on my far right, Phil Gagliardi, Pete Schilavati, Jerry Fahey, Tim Curvin, Sue Finnegan, Carol Trexler-Over, my wife Beth, John Fury, you've met, and the tax person in the middle, and then obviously Kelly at the front here. So they're the group that's here today. Gail is not here, as well as Tim and Amy. They're back at the office, but they're all a very integral part of what we're doing every day, and without them, I couldn't do anything anywhere to support you. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the presentation. As I said, this is a presentation on asset protection and personal risk management. You hear so much about this topic, in the news today with the Target breach and a number of different things that are going on. So we felt that this was a great way to add some value to our existing clients by saying, how can we give you some good, useful information about how to protect yourself, not only from an identity theft standpoint, but also from an insurance standpoint. So we've brought in two speakers today. One is Ned Lee, and the other is Nancy Albanese. Both of them are with the firm Powers, Kraft, Parker, and Beard. Ned started in the property casualty business in the personal lines insurance department with Johnson and Higgins in 1983 after graduating from Kenyon College with a degree in economics. He then transitioned into the commercial lines before joining Powers, Kraft, Parker, and Beard. He earned his CPCU chartered property casualty underwriter in 1993 and now is a vice president partner in that firm. Nancy, his associate, is more associated with personal lines within that firm, and she helps service the complex needs of high net worth clients in the local region as well as throughout the country. She holds her accredited advisor in insurance, and she's working on the CPCU as well. She began her career in 1988 and has held her position with Ned's firm since 1998. So we're going to bring both of them up to talk with you today. They asked if it's possible to let them try to get through the presentation. A lot of it is on your desk right now in front of you. We've given you pens and some paper to make some notes on, and they would prefer, if possible, to try to hold your questions to the end. But then we'll have plenty of time at the end if you have some specific questions that make some sense. We are taping this presentation, and we would like you to speak into the mic when you do ask your questions, so that others who can't come today can listen to the presentation online. So anyway, with that, let's please welcome Nancy and Ned.
All right. Thanks, Pete. Good afternoon. I'm Ned, and appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk a little bit about this sort of burgeoning topic in identity theft, especially, but also our approach to the personal risk management and asset protection topic in general. We're really going to address this from an insurance perspective. There are other ways to shield assets, which we're not going to go into at this point. So in general, when we talk about risk management and the process, we talk about ways to avoid unexpected losses that could have a negative impact on your assets. We look at a holistic, big picture approach, and several of the strategies that are incorporated into the process include assuming risk, which we all do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's a higher deductible. We try to manage our insurance costs that way. We transfer risks to third parties, meaning we transfer it to an insurance company. We could do it contractually, or we have an event, instead of at our house, we could have it at an outside location. Those are all ways to transfer risk to a third party. We reduce risk using outside sources, loss control, background screening, identity protection. Those are all services and products that are available to reduce risk, or we avoid risk altogether. We just don't do it. And then the risk management process is complete once that program is monitored and updated on an annual basis. In general, we've kind of broken down the types of assets and associated risks into three different categories. I'm going to focus on the financial asset and the risk of identity theft and cyber. Nancy's going to talk a little bit more about the tangible asset aspect of asset protection. But from a financial asset standpoint, and those could be your bank accounts, credit cards, investment portfolio, anything that could affect your net worth. Some of the risks that you face, your financial assets could face, would be identity theft, cyber liability, online risks, crime, whether it's an actual physical crime, someone breaking into your house, car, while traveling. Then the whole issue of liability, litigation for civil actions that are brought against you. Nancy's going to discuss that a little bit more in the second portion of the program with respect to umbrella liability. How much liability do you need to have? How much is enough? And then travel and security issues that come up, kidnap and ransom, medical treatment abroad, repatriation expense, quality of care overseas, and other security issues that you could face that could have an impact on your financial assets. Tangible assets are your home, primary, vacation, rental properties, automobiles, collectible, classic cars, other collections like art, antiques, wine, silver, jewelry, and watercraft. Those are all tangible assets that are addressed in various ways from a risk management standpoint. And then you have your reputation. That's another asset. Your good name, your credit score. And those are susceptible to attack or damage through online intrusions, online misinformation, inaccurate credit reports that are developed. all as a result of some identity theft exposures, which I'll talk about in a minute. And what you want to consider when you're thinking about the various assets are, can you insure the risk, and what does it cost to do so? And are there other ways to manage these exposures? Some of the other exposures to loss of financial interest could be from your financial advisors. They have access to financial records, personal financial information. They execute financial transactions on your behalf. They wire funds. They do all sorts of different things that involve your personal financial information. Then there's the investment risk, market risk. There's a Bernie Madoff type risk. Some of these things are uninsurable, but it's just something that you need to consider on the holistic approach side of the risk management process. You have exposure to loss from outside contractors who you're working with. You don't know them that well. They're in your home. Domestic employees who have access to mail, financial records possibly, credit cards, ATM cards, passports, any other documents that may be in your home that are not properly protected. Then there's the outside thief exposure, and then online and cyber scams, which are constantly developing and popping up, where you may get an email to wire money to a friend in need, and it's incredible how much information they have regarding your friend's email address, where it's almost exactly the right address except for a letter is different or there's a slight difference, but it's scary, the information that people can get access to. They can access social media sites through Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. There's a lot of information that someone can get if they really want to. Over 18% of all reported identity thefts in 2011 involved insiders per the Identity Theft Resource Center. So it goes to show you that it's not always an arbitrary attack or an outsider that's gaining access to your information. It may be someone you know. And again, you need to ask, of these exposures, what can you insure? What's your actual exposure to loss? And how best do you protect yourself? So identity theft, I'll discuss a little bit the following. What is it? What's your exposure to your financial exposure, as well as time associated with repairing your identity? How does it occur? How do people use your identity? How do you reduce the exposure? And what insurance is available? And what's actually covered under that insurance? And is it worth it? And then at the end, I'll talk a little bit about identity theft protection services that are available that you can buy, pay a fee for. So identity theft, it's simply theft of any personally identifiable information. That could be your name, address, date of birth, driver's license number, social security number, medical records, banking records, ATM card, passport, and it's when someone uses that information with the intent to commit fraud. Your identity is a core asset which needs to be managed and protected like any other asset. And according to the Identity Theft Resource Center, for an existing account, meaning an existing credit card account, a bank account, the average cost to an individual of an identity theft is a little over $500 out of pocket. But in addition to that, close to 70 hours time to resolve their identity. And for a newly established account, that is someone who gets your information and opens a new credit card account, a new banking account, it's over $2,000 out of pocket and 141 hours to resolve. Cyber crime against financial advisors and financial institutions is an ongoing problem that those institutions are dealing with. They get requests to wire funds from your account to someone else's account all the time, and they're constantly monitoring that situation. So it's something you just need to be aware of and discuss with your financial institutions. As I mentioned earlier, social networking makes it easier for scammers and stalkers to learn about and track their intended victim. They can access social networks. They can get users to click on malicious links, or they can send emails asking for money. They can also find out online by what you post, what your travel plans might be, any new purchases you may have made, where you are. So you just need to be discreet whenever you're posting something on Facebook or LinkedIn or a social media site. So how does it occur, and how is this information used? Well, they obtain false driver's license numbers using your identity. They'll use your social security number for employment purposes. They'll file taxes under your name in order to obtain a refund. They'll set up credit card accounts using pre-approved offers that come in the mail all the time. They pay the bill monthly until the limit is increased, and then they make the large purchase. They use your information to escape fines and jail. They use information to obtain or buy vehicles, real estate, or other items. And they use your personal identifiable information to obtain medical services or prescriptions, which reduce your available benefits, damages your credit, and affects your medical history. So there are two sort of general ways to manage the risk. One is pre-loss or loss prevention, so that it doesn't occur in the first place. And the second would be post-loss or loss reduction. On a pre-loss basis, you want to protect your information as much as possible. Obviously, Social Security card, birth certificate, passport, all should be maintained in a safe deposit box or other secure location. Use a shredder for all credit card offers that come in the mail, those pre-approved offers that you get. If you throw them in the trash, someone can grab those and open an account in your name, and you'll never know until it's too late. Other sensitive financial information should be shredded. Monitor your credit reports using annualcreditreport.com. You can access Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, which are the three major credit reporting agencies, and they'll all provide one free credit report per year. So if you stagger the requests every 4 months, you'll stay fairly up to date. Protect your personal belongings while at home, while traveling, and at work, including any information that are on your laptops or tablets or other PDAs. I mean, that's another good way for people to access your information, is if you leave that device lying around and it's not closed properly or secured properly, there's a lot of information that can be accessed through those laptops and PCs. Use ATMs cautiously. Only use credit cards for large and online purchases. You have a lot more protection through a credit card company than you do through an ATM with a bank. Maintain the credit card company information and numbers in a safe place in case they are lost or stolen. You want to monitor your medical records and medical benefit statements frequently. Install antivirus software on your computer and run the latest version. Try to use complex passwords and change frequently, which I know is a pain for everyone. I mean, I don't know how many passwords I have, and I've gotten to the point where I keep them all on one document, which is probably the worst thing to do, but it's the only way I can remember them. Make sure you log off and close the browser completely when finished conducting any online business with a financial institution. Never respond to pop-up ads that alert you to a virus infection, as legitimate antivirus companies don't use them. Never leave a laptop unattended in the hotel room or other places where hackers might be able to access them. So a laptop, you really almost need to consider that like a wallet. There's a lot of information on there nowadays. Be careful of using wireless networks. Some are more secure than others. Destroy old hard drives when you get rid of a computer, and only purchase online from a SSL website or a secure socket layer, and you'll see the little safety lock at the website address when it comes up on your computer. So if a loss does occur, there are ways you can reduce your ultimate exposure to financial loss. Contact the three credit bureaus fraud departments and request a free credit report, and also request the extension of fraud alert from 90 days to 7 years, and continue to monitor your credit reports. You need to notify the police immediately where it occurred and get a copy of the police report. That's important for a couple of reasons I'll mention in a minute. Notify the FTC and complete the ID theft affidavit. That information is all available through ftc.gov. Notify creditors immediately if it's a new account via phone and in writing. And if it's an existing account, request new cards and numbers and also notify them, obviously. Notify financial institutions as soon as possible if a fraudulent check or ATM or debit card is stolen or compromised. And again, it's important to check your financial statements and records frequently. Notify the Social Security Administration if a card is misused, and obtain legal advice and be prepared to and be organized to repair your identity, because it will take some time. As far as limitation on your liability with respect to credit cards and ATMs, I just thought this was interesting in pointing out that with an ATM or debit card, you're only responsible for $50 if that loss or misused card is reported within 2 business days. It's $500 if it's reported between 2 and 60 business days, and there's no limitation on liability, on the bank's responsibility, if reported after 60 business days. Credit cards, you have a lot more protection. It's only $50, and you must notify the company as soon as possible. And with respect to fraudulent checks, the bank is really responsible for any bad checks that are written. But again, you need to be aware of your bank statements and your checking activity, and check those statements monthly and online if applicable. As far as what insurance is available and whether it's worth it, what it covers, for theft of money and property, under a basic homeowner's policy, there's really very little coverage. You have coverage for $1,500 for theft of securities, $250 in cash. A police report is required to file that claim. If it's a theft of a credit or debit card, it's a $500 limit, no deductible. Check forgery, a $500 limit, no deductible. But ultimately, your liability is somewhat limited by what I had mentioned earlier. Some of the high-end, high net worth insurance companies like Chubb, AIG, ACE, Pure, and Fireman's Fund provide higher limits in their standard contract. But in addition to that, you can buy by endorsement to the basic homeowner's policy coverage for those additional expenses that you incur to repair your identity fraud expense coverage. And with travelers, for example, they'll pay up to $15,000 with no deductible. They'll also cover some lost income for up to $200 a day, $5,000 maximum for time spent repairing your identity. They'll cover attorney's fees, additional loan application fees, any certified mailing costs, long-distance phone calls, things like that you incur, those costs that you incur to repair your identity. They'll also provide resolution services for a limited time, and those could include ordering credit reports for you, alerting the credit reporting agencies, providing credit monitoring for you, and preparing additional documentation. That generally will last for up to 3 6-month periods under that endorsement. Again, Chubb, AIG, ACE, Pure, and Fireman's Fund, they offer higher limits in their basic contract as well as under this identity fraud expense coverage. But it's important to keep in mind that that's really expense coverage only. There's no coverage for loss of money or other property in that endorsement. In addition to what insurance might be available in a contract or by endorsement, some of the high-end carriers, the ones I had mentioned earlier, provide as a client, as a service, identity theft protection and resolution services. It's really a higher level of service and additional assistance should you need it in the event of a breach. ACE Private Risk Services, for example, they will offer, and they include at no cost, fraud resolution services, which include access to their specialists to handle identity theft, credit card fraud, medical identity theft. They also provide identity and reputation defense coverage. So they'll monitor social media websites for updates on privacy changes and viruses and provide alerts to you. There's also travel safety information, safety tips, home and auto invasion credit monitoring services, surviving spousal services and marriage and divorce services. So if you're going through either of those and documents are being exchanged with financial institutions and attorneys, they're able to suppress some of that credit file and credit account information so that it's not available to outside sources. and deployed military services, places an active duty military fraud alert on those serving. In addition, they provide document recovery services. So if you are traveling abroad and you lose passports or other documents or they're stolen, they'll assist with that recovery through various government agencies and help with a document response and recovery during a catastrophic event like a fire or some hurricane, some other event at your home. And then they also will assist with reputation defense services. So they'll expunge negative and erroneous information that's been posted on the internet through blogs and social media. And they'll also identify and remove old, inaccurate information that might be in various databases. So that's just an additional service that's available through some of those carriers at no cost. The last thing I just wanted to mention was under identity theft protection products that are available in the marketplace. This is really kind of outside of an insurance product. But companies like LifeLock, other firms like that, they'll offer internet fraud monitoring, placement and renewal fraud alerts where they'll notify you automatically if there's been some unusual activity. They'll place a credit freeze on your account, which you would need to lift if you were applying for a loan or other credit. It makes it very difficult for someone to open an account in your name if you have a credit freeze on your account. They'll remove you from pre-screened credit offers for 5 years or permanently, however you want to set it up. You can go to the ftc.gov for more information on that. And then also, some of these products that are available will provide the triple credit report through Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, triple credit scores, and credit monitoring alerts, so that if a new account is opened in your name, you would receive a notification that that's been done in the event that it wasn't you. And then credit report specialists are available. And last item for me anyway is obviously under restoration, identity theft insurance, which I talked a little bit about. It's a somewhat limited coverage, but it is available. And identity restoration support, which again is also available through some of the high-end carriers at no additional cost. As far as credit card registration, you can include secure online card and document registration and 800 number to report lost or stolen cards. You can set that up with your credit card. So that's really sort of a very brief and quick overview on identity theft and those risks that are associated with potential loss of your financial assets. Nancy's going to talk a little bit about the risk management process as it relates more to liability exposures and also protection of tangible assets.
Good afternoon. I am the personal lines manager at Powers Craft Parker & Beard, and today I'm going to speak with you about how to structure your personal insurance program. Let's see. In other words, how not to overpay to be underinsured. When a new client comes to our agency asking us to review their personal insurance program, often asking to get a better rate, the first thing that we do is to ask questions, many questions, such as, what do you own? We need a complete listing of homes, automobiles, recreational vehicles, boats, rental properties, as well as asking questions about our clients' activities. For example, your occupation, if you have an in-home business, whether you serve on any boards as a director or officer, and whether you have any domestic employees. As an independent agent, we represent many insurance companies, so we have the ability to try to find the best insurance program to fit our clients' needs. Some insurance agents represent only one carrier, which leaves them at a disadvantage because they only have several products to offer their clients. Perhaps most importantly, after conducting our review and our questioning about our clients' assets, we design our program to wrap it all up with a personal umbrella policy at an appropriate coverage limit. When people think of personal insurance, it is often in pieces. For example, how much am I paying for my car insurance, which is the result of the many advertisements that we see on television today. Homeowners policies are often neglected as well because many people consider them to all be the same. And if the homeowners policy is wrapped up with your escrow account and paid by your mortgage company, it's often just left the same for many years and not updated or reviewed on a regular basis. Today, one point that I'd like you to take home is to have the knowledge that all insurance companies are not the same. Policies can differ very significantly in their scope of coverage. And sometimes you just get what you pay for. So shopping online or calling the 800 number to get the lowest price on your car insurance is not always the best answer. In the first segment of my presentation, I'm going to review the importance of having a personal umbrella policy and to briefly discuss how much coverage is enough. Then I have 10 recommendations that you can use to help review your personal insurance program, making sure that it is comprehensive as well as cost-effective. And at the end of the program, we've included as a separate handout some questionnaires and comparison charts that you can use and review at home to sort of act as a guide to check your own personal insurance program to make sure that it is up to date and accurate. So as Ned discussed in the first part of the presentation, we look at a client's loss exposure, and there are really three ways to manage that. One is to control the loss exposure. The second, to avoid the loss exposure. As Ned said, just don't do it. And third, to transfer that loss exposure by means of purchasing insurance. When we identify our loss exposures, we look at two aspects: damage to your property and the possibility of lawsuits. Some of the areas where you can sustain damage would be damage to your home from weather-related things or broken pipe, fire. You can also sustain damage to your personal property, the contents of your home, and to your valuable items, jewelry, fine art, any valuable collections that you have, furs, silverware. Damage to your automobiles as a result of an accident, and watercraft or recreational vehicles. Then there is the possibility of lawsuit. So those can arise from your premises, whether someone slips and falls on your property. Of course, an automobile accident, that's probably an individual's greatest exposure to a lawsuit. You can also be sued for libel, slander, defamation of character, especially today with online activities, posting things on Facebook. You certainly do not want to say something negative about someone because you are putting yourself at risk of being sued. You can sustain a lawsuit from a domestic employee, and lawsuits arising from your activities, things that happen away from the premises, whether intentional or unintentional. So you can put preventative measures in place to try to mitigate the loss exposure. For example, a home inspection can reveal premises risks. Those could include uneven sidewalks, which someone could trip and fall. You don't want to have a swimming pool without a fence because someone could get in there and possibly drown. So look around your premises and try to put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to see what possible hazards there are that can put you at risk. Teen training would be, you have teen drivers, that always is a very big risk to someone. Teens, of course, are more likely to have an automobile accident, so you need to train them to drive responsibly. Using recreational vehicles, quads or jet skis, also hazardous things that put you at risk, and of course the social media. You can conduct background screens of your domestic staff as well as contractors. And some of the insurance companies that we work with actually provide that as a complimentary service. Otherwise, there are sources online, I believe, where you can go to conduct those, but most of the time you need to get a consent form if it's a domestic employee to run a background check. If you're having a party at your home, consider hiring professional bartenders or a car service to help further limit your liability. And of course, protect yourself with insurance is another obvious way to help protect yourself. So really, you can manage your loss exposure using all three methods. Be safety conscious and utilize technology to help protect your assets. Use some of the alarm systems that are available, outdoor cameras to help protect you from loss from burglary or, there's many types of technology that can detect water leaking from within your home. Make sure that your smoke detector is up to date with batteries. You can avoid risky behavior that exacerbates your loss exposure. So perhaps don't ride that jet ski after dark. Don't go quadding in the woods where there's a big chance of having an accident. And purchase insurance to cover the catastrophic loss, which is really where your main concern should be, and self-insure or assume the risk for smaller losses. So there are 10 tips that I was going to present to you today that, certainly it's not everything that you should do to analyze and update your personal insurance program, but these are some of the more important things that you can begin with to make sure that your insurance program is comprehensive. Number one, and I believe this is very important, purchase enough umbrella liability insurance to match your assets at risk. You'd be surprised how many people do not even carry a personal umbrella policy. An umbrella policy provides a very high level of liability coverage, beginning with limits of $1 million, and some carriers will provide coverage levels in increments of 1 million all the way up to 100 million. Umbrella coverage provides a critical level of protection over and above the limits on your homeowners and automobile policies. So usually you'd carry a homeowner's policy with 500,000 liability coverage and the same for your automobile policy. But then once those limits are exhausted, if you're sued, the umbrella policy picks up and provides an additional layer of coverage. You have to purchase a coverage level to match your assets at risk. So that's a very good question. How much liability coverage is necessary? It's hard to really say, but a rule of thumb can be to look at your current net worth, including your tangible assets and your financial assets, and also include your future income. Okay, so here are we're going to talk about some examples of liability claims and how they are a threat to families today. Okay, this is an actual lawsuit that occurred in California. A couple was taking some friends on a cruise, and one of the gentlemen fell overboard and was severely injured by the rudder of the boat. The verdict was $31 million. Venting online. This was a case in Florida where a woman wrote something unfavorable about a contractor that had done some business for her, and she was sued. The verdict was $11 million. Kids playing out back. This was a case where someone was injured while using a quad unsupervised, and the property owner where the accident occurred was sued for $20 million. So we need to speak of the perception of a liability lawsuit versus the reality. A common perception is, I increasingly feel like my wealth makes me a target, which is correct. So we talk about how have perceptions of the wealthy changed since 2008. According to a survey conducted by ACE Insurance Company, 68% of respondents said that since the financial crisis of 2008, the public perceptions are more negative. Okay, and I think that's very true. And wealth is definitely a relative term. I would say that there's not a magic number that makes someone wealthy. It's just relative. If you're involved in a situation where you could be sued, if you are wealthier than the other person and they view you as being wealthy, that increases the likelihood of being sued and involved in a large lawsuit. Are you more or less likely to be sued since 2008? Survey indicates that 38% of the people surveyed said they were more likely to be sued. Okay, there's a legal statute of joint and several liability. This states that if you are 1% at fault, you can be held liable for 100% of the damages. This occurs in a case where there is more than one person liable for an accident or an incident. Really, they would, I guess, hold each person accountable, but if even if you were very small percentage at fault, and perhaps the other parties didn't have insurance coverage or no assets, and you do, you can be held for liable for 100% of the damages. Joint and several liability encourages plaintiff lawyers to go after the deep pockets. Now, in Pennsylvania, in 2011, there was a Senate Bill 1131 that provides that defendants are proportionally liable for damages awarded according to the percentage at fault, okay, unless the act is intentional or the defendant is found to be more than 60% liable. So in Pennsylvania, it goes more by who is the actual proportion, what your proportion is to the fault. Oops. But if you are more than 60% liable, or if the act was intentional, then the joint and several liability comes into play, where if you're even 1%, if it's intentional, you can still be held for 100% of the damages. Here's a case where 5 teens are out for a joyride, and only the parents of one got sued. What happened in this situation was 5 kids were actually not even in the car, not driving. One of the kids was climbing on the hood, and the other kids took off as a joke. The child got injured, and the parents of the people who were in the car, the kids who were in the car, were sued, and only one parent had significant assets and insurance, and so they were the ones that got sued, and it was a suit that I believe was $6 million, and they only had $2 million in coverage, and so they were held responsible for the rest. Activities of a wealthy lifestyle also contribute to your risk. Holding charity events at your home, serving on a charitable board, having things in your property such as swimming pools, trampolines, or recreational vehicles, renting out secondary homes, employing household staff, teens with high-tech toys, risky online behavior who own their own cars. Another common perception, the most I could be held liable for is less than $5 million. And here's the survey that ACE Insurance Company conducted, and as you can see, it was nearly split down the middle. 51% of people surveyed said that they felt less than $5 million was the most they could be sued for. So to go along with that, this chart coincides. 43% of clients have less than $5 million in umbrella coverage, and as you can see, there were a lot that had none. Here are some additional examples of verdicts that exceed $5 million, and 4% of personal injury verdicts do. $49 million, a multi-vehicle crash in which a 21-year-old student was left in a coma for 1 month, expected to require lifetime 24-hour care. 29 million. 4-year-old boy suffered a spinal cord injury while riding as a passenger in a vehicle involved in a head-on collision. 21 million. A 21-year-old female college student was killed in an auto accident. 19 million. A pedestrian suffered mild brain injuries and permanent scarring after being struck by a vehicle. And these are from jury verdict research between 2003 and 2009. So as you can imagine, things are even more significant today. Okay, so what happens if you are sued and you do not have enough insurance coverage? Your savings, your investments, your collections, your toys, your homes, and your future income can all be used to help pay that verdict. Another perception: high amounts of liability coverage will cost too much. Here's a chart which shows the typical cost for a client with 1 home, 2 cars, and 2 drivers. $1 million coverage limit, the annual premium, $383. $2 million, $474. $5 million, $608. $10 million, $999. And as you can see, the cost per million goes down significantly as the limit gets higher. Now, many clients can save $900 annually by raising the basic home deductible from $500 to $2,500. So doesn't that make sense to take a higher deductible on your other insurance products and use that money to purchase a high limit of liability coverage? So you need to choose the right amounts of coverage, asking yourself, what is your liquid net worth? What are your tangible assets? What about your reputation? And you need to consider your future earning potential and make sure you know what limits you currently carry. One reason that it is a good idea to put all of your insurance with one single insurance carrier is to make sure that this all works together. In this example, there's a $300,000 home policy for liability, $250,000 liability on the automobile policy, and a $5 million umbrella. However, if they are with different companies, there could be a gap. Different umbrella carriers have different required underlying limits. Perhaps it would be $500,000 that you're required to carry before your umbrella picks up, thereby leaving a gap. Don't choose a carrier by price alone. As Ned mentioned in the earlier part of the presentation, there are several insurance companies that specialize in insuring higher net worth clients, and those carriers often provide much broader coverage, including on the umbrella policy. With a standard carrier, the maximum limits of liability you can get are $5 million. This says to $7 million, but in my experience, most standard insurance carriers only offer up to $5 million. Some do not fill gaps, and by gaps here we mean some of the umbrella policies pick up exposures. For example, if you rent a boat or rent a car, they'll drop down and pay the coverage right from the $0. And then the defense costs with a preferred umbrella policy, the defense costs are separate from the policy limit. So you have your limit of liability, and the defense costs are outside of that limit. The high net worth carrier offers those coverages. Higher limits of liability includes options that are not available with a standard carrier, such as excess uninsured motorist coverage, employment practices liability, directors and officers liability, and can include the trust, a family trust as a named insured. Okay, seek full replacement coverage for your home structure. This is going along with the suggestions for how to tailor your insurance program. For your homeowner's policy, you need to insure the home for the cost to rebuild with like quality material. Many carriers do not offer full replacement coverage. So you need to check your policy, see if it includes that. If it does not, you should ask the carrier if they offer that coverage, and at the very least, make sure that the coverage limit on your policy is enough to rebuild the home with like quality material. An estimated 61% of American homes are undervalued for the purpose of insurance. Most people incorrectly assume their policy provides replacement coverage. Okay, tip number 3, ensure your homeowner's policy includes building code upgrade. Constantly changing and increasingly restrictive building codes can significantly add to the cost of rebuilding or repairing a home. Many policies only provide coverage for what it would cost to rebuild your home at the current level of building code. And so if the codes have changed and you're required to upgrade, they won't pay that coverage limit. So it's important to make sure that you have this coverage in your policy. The coverage can be increased by endorsement, or a policy with a high net worth carrier can provide full coverage. Number 4, take an inventory of your home contents. Standard homeowners policies set the coverage limit for your contents. It's just a percentage of the dwelling coverage. This often is not an accurate reflection of the value of your contents. So conduct an inventory and estimate how much it would cost to purchase new items. Purchase a valuable items policy for jewelry, art, furs, silverware, or wine. 94% of affluent households have valuable collections, many worth at least $100,000. Nearly 40% do not have their valuable collections protected by a valuables policy. Items such as jewelry, furs, and silverware are not adequately protected under a homeowner's policy. Most of those items are limited for maybe $1,000 or $2,000, so it's important to purchase additional coverage. Here's an important one. If your home is part of a property association, you need to have loss assessment coverage. This can be if you own a condo, or many single-family homes also have a homeowners association. Property associations usually have the power to assess members for losses if the association's insurance is insufficient. These assessments can amount to tens of thousands of dollars per member. Most homeowners policies provide $1,000 of coverage, but this can be increased, or certain high net worth companies provide up to $100,000. Number 7, if you volunteer as a board member, make sure you are covered. Volunteer board members and trustees can be sued personally for the actions of the organization. You should make sure the organization has adequate coverage that extends to its members. Some companies do offer coverage under their personal umbrella policy. Number 8, name any trusts, LLCs, or estates on your insurance policies. Often, trusts and LLCs are formed to help shield your assets and to maximize the transfer of wealth to future generations. But these entities need to be listed on the appropriate insurance policies. Otherwise, the entity is not protected against liability lawsuits. Okay, number 9, and I feel this is a very good suggestion. Increase the homeowners and automobile deductibles. Increasing the deductible amounts on homeowners and automobile policies can save hundreds or thousands of dollars a year. In the vast majority of cases, the savings will far outweigh the added risk of paying the higher deductible over time. When thinking about increasing your deductible, keep this in mind. The average homeowner submits a claim once every 12 years. So think about how much you save over that time in premium by taking the higher deductible versus how much extra you would have to pay out of pocket if you have a claim. Number 10, bundle policies with the same carrier. Having policies with different carriers increases the possibility of gaps, as we discussed with the umbrella policy example. The short-term savings of switching to a highly advertised company for cheaper car insurance does not mean you will end up saving in the long term. Multi-policy credits often apply to homes, autos, umbrella, valuables, and watercraft when placed with the same carrier. It is usually better to have all the policies with one single highly rated company. Here are some ways that you can save premium dollars on both the homeowners and automobile insurance. On the homeowners, most insurance carriers give you premium credits for having burglar alarms, fire alarms, a backup generator, water leak detection system, gas leak detection, sprinklers, living in a gated community, lightning protection, and temperature monitoring devices. For your automobile policy, credits are provided for anti-theft devices, fuel cutoff switches, location transponders, airbags, having taken a safe driving course, and for low mileage. This is an example which you will find in the separate handout, but I'll just go over it with you briefly because I think it's very important to see how someone can use these ideas that we've presented to structure their insurance program in a way that gives them the broadest possible coverage and at the same time reduces their overall premium. In this case, we have a couple nearing retirement. They have a primary home, a vacation home, some valuable items, 4 automobiles, and an umbrella policy. In the first column, they have their home insured, their primary home, and the personal property coverage or the contents is just at the level that was automatically set by the insurance company, and they have a $1,000 deductible. On the secondary home, their vacation home, they have the structure insured for $1,700,000, and again, the personal property coverage, which was just at the level set by the insurance company without them having evaluated that, also with a $1,000 deductible. And as you can see there, in the second column, they've increased the contents coverage at both locations, increased both deductibles to $5,000, and have saved about $2,400 by making those changes. Then, for their valuable items, they had a few things scheduled on a valuable items policy in the first column. In the second column, they've increased those coverage limits. They've added some additional coverage for China, and that increased the premium, but they also, by putting it with a single carrier, got a package policy credit. For their automobile policy, they had $500 deductibles on all cars. They increased those to $2,500 and also took advantage of having a package policy credit by putting it all with the same carrier. And then finally, which I feel is very important, they increased the umbrella liability limit from $5 million to $10 million. And as you can see, the bottom line, they've saved, their premium went from $19,880 per year to $17,165. Okay, and then I won't go over this in detail, but I've included in your package, and I'm showing it here, just a checklist that we use within our office to prompt our clients to look at the items that can affect their insurance coverage and premiums, just to make sure that you've addressed all of these things. And lastly, I've included in your package there a coverage comparison showing some of the items that differ between different insurance companies to just let you see how all insurance companies and products are not the same. They definitely vary, and it's important to review your policies to make sure that you know what's covered, and if you don't feel you're adequately covered, to discuss that with your insurance advisor. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak with you today, and Ned and I are here now to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you very much, Ned. Nancy, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have an immediate question? I have one.
I have one right here.
Jan?
Hi, I just have a question. If you have a vacation home in a different state than the rest of your property, can you get just one umbrella policy to cover?
Yes, yes. So you should, now there are some local insurance companies that only insure policies in a single state, but there are many national and international companies that insure throughout the country and even throughout the world. So you would want to go with a carrier that insures policies in both states. And then the personal umbrella policy, yes, it covers over all homes. Yes, so absolutely.
I just have a simple question because to protect your social security number, everybody tells you, put it in your safe deposit box, etc. Your Medicare card has your social security number on it. Every time you go to the doctor's or a hospital, you have to show that card they make copies of it for insurance purposes, a zillion people see that number. Is there any legislation out there or proposed to say that a separate number would be used on medical cards other than your social security number?
Do you know the answer to that, Ned?
I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know the answer, but I can, if you want to send me an email, and my email address is on there, I can look it up for you to see if there is anything, any legislation
I'll
pending.
send it to you, Ned.
Okay. Thank you. Sure.
Hi, would it, I got to get your numbers later, but would it make sense? I know my daughter did it, and I don't know if it makes sense for me too, where instead of using her social security number, she applied for a federal ID number and uses that instead. Can I do that? Can everybody do that? I mean, obviously that number can be changed. You can't change your social security number, but you
Right.
can change your federal ID number.
Do you know the answer to that, Ned?
I don't. No.
that's a
your
very good
federal
question.
ID, the federal employer ID number?
There's
Yeah.
a federal ID number which you can use in place of your social security number for different places where you would use your social security number. And the advantage of that with her was that she had some fraud, and she was able to change the ID number immediately without a problem.
I don't know. I can, again, I can get back to Pete on that.
Thank you.
Are any assets safe from being subject of liability? Like are IRAs safe or not?
I have talked with attorneys about that, and I know things vary from one state to the next, and things are constantly changing. Yes, there are definitely assets that are shielded from lawsuit. There are also steps that someone can take to help shield those assets such as putting them into a trust. I know, for example, that your primary residence is somewhat shielded from being taken in a lawsuit. So the answer is, yes, there are things that are shielded, but attorneys will often find a way if there is a way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for the tutelage here. I didn't expect to learn that much,
Oh, great.
so you got me worried. You achieved your objective. How do you get involved to help me?
Excuse me?
How do you get involved to help me? How do people get your services?
We have our contact information in the package of information, so please just contact us and we would be more than happy.
You look at my situation and you
Yes,
give me advice
yes,
and
yes,
do your
absolutely.
Consulting?
Yes, I would be very happy to do that for
Do you
you.
also offer products?
Yes, we're an
Do you-
insurance brokerage firm and we represent at least 10 different insurance companies, and this is what we do, yes.
Sounds logical, but I didn't want to assume.
Okay, yes, we would be
Thank
happy
you.
to help you.
Ned, I have a question that many of my clients ask. The services like a LifeLock, where that they offer some credit card protection and identity theft protection. Have any comments on something like that? Have you heard about those services?
Oh yeah, I've heard about them. Interestingly enough, I think I saw something online today where LifeLock's stock went down 10 or 20% today because there was a glitch in some online program they have that's now susceptible to attack. And I just saw it I think it was in the Journal today. So I just happened to glance at it when I was reading through there. But I know people who've used LifeLock and they really like it. They've never had a problem. They pay their annual fee. It gives them some sense of peace of mind. I really can't comment on anything other than that. I mean, I think it's better than doing nothing, and it gives you access, or they provide the access to the 3 credit reporting agencies, which if you do nothing else, I mean, that's probably the best thing you can do is to check that periodically.
Is there a different company that your firm recommends to do that, or?
Not really, no.
Not really.
No.
Any other questions?
Could you provide the site again that you mentioned earlier where we could be removed from receiving pre-approved credit
Oh,
cards?
yeah, if you go, I think it's ftc.gov, www.ft, it's the Federal Trade Commission.
Oh,
And I believe that information is available there.
thank you.
I had a question as I volunteer, but I'm not on the board. And they have some liability, which after today, like I'm worried, I will go look that up. What is the exposure that I have as just a volunteer participant? I'm giving advice to small businesses.
Well, there is some exposure, and some of it is included in your homeowners and umbrella policies. If you're sued for something having to do with bodily injury, property damage, or such things as libel, slander, or defamation of character, most homeowners and umbrella carriers do provide some coverage as long as it's not a not-for-profit position.
It is not, it's
Okay.
volunteer, non-for-profit.
Okay, yes.
Nonprofit organization, and I volunteer.
I mean, I think you're,
So that would be okay.
yes, and I think you're at greater exposure if you actually are a board member, because what can happen is if there's a lawsuit, that you may have nothing to do with, perhaps like with mismanagement of funds or something like that, usually it's the board members that are more at exposure for something like that, and that's where the directors and officers liability would provide coverage, and the organization would provide that most likely for the directors and officers. And some insurance carriers do allow you to purchase some of that coverage under the umbrella policy. But if you're just a member, a volunteer and not a member of the board, the exposure is not as great in that case. Okay, you're welcome.
How often do you recommend that a homeowner's auto liability policy be reviewed? What's with changing legislation? Any thoughts on that?
I would say it's a good idea to review your policy every several years, with the exception of if you make changes that would affect, your insurance portfolio. If you buy a home or make changes, you should always discuss those with your insurance advisor. But otherwise, I'd say every several years. I mean, the market changes, new products are developed, new insurance products. So I would say maybe every 4 or 5 years, it's a good idea to do a thorough review. But I think at every renewal, you should go over the things. And in that questionnaire or the checklist that we provided, those are the things that would definitely prompt you to discuss the situations with your insurance provider.
Yeah, Pete, for example, one of the things that comes up a lot with a lot of our clients is they're selling their primary residence and they're moving into a condominium or a retirement community or facility like that. And they think, well, now I don't really need insurance anymore. It's someone else's responsibility. But that's another significant life event where it needs to be discussed, and because there are still property insurance that's needed, liability coverage that's still needed. Facilities require that you have those coverages when you move into one. So, everyone's stage of life is different. So you could have a youthful driver precipitate some change in your auto insurance, where they come off the policy. There are a lot of different things that could trigger a review.
I have one over here.
Yes, can you be sued for more than your net worth? I mean, what would be the point?
Well, yeah. I mean, a jury could award someone, a huge multi-million-dollar settlement, and if you do not have those assets, then they really can't get anything from you except for perhaps your future earnings. So really, that's why we say to set that liability limit in line with your personal assets so that your assets are fully protected and they don't go into the assets. But, really the sky is the limit for how much you can be sued for, but how much they're able to collect from you is a different story.
Yeah,
What multiple of your net worth do you recommend for the umbrella liability policy? And you mean if you only have $5 million and they get a $10 million judgment and you still have $4 million assets, they could still get add your assets then. So is there some multiple that you recommend?
Well, you know, I guess the rule of thumb is to set it in line with your personal assets, including your financial assets and your tangible assets, including your future earnings. And then a discussion that we sometimes have with our clients is to further question some of their activities and whether they are in the public eye, because that certainly puts you at a greater risk of a lawsuit. But, you know, I mean, it is a hard decision to make how much coverage is enough. But what you're saying is true. I mean, if all of your assets, future earnings total, say, $5 million, if you carry a $5 million umbrella, what is to stop someone from suing you for $10 million? I mean, you know, that's true. But I think that, you know, often if your liability coverage is clearly high enough to settle a lawsuit, then, you know, then you're protected. But, you know, that's true. It's really, there's no way to say how much is enough.
John, I don't think we can insure enough. Just keep buying more of it. I have one more question, and then I probably try to wrap up. So I'm going to put you on the spot for 1 second and ask about tort, you know, both full tort and limited tort regarding automobile insurance. If you could just give a quick 30-second explanation of that, and if any, how that relates to the liability associated with what we're talking about, that'd be great.
Okay.
Do you want to do that?
Yes. On your automobile policy in the state of Pennsylvania, you can choose between the full and the limited tort option. And that affects your own right to sue another party if you're injured in an automobile accident. If you take the limited tort option, you realize a premium reduction in your automobile policy. But as a result, you are not able to sue another party for pain and suffering unless you suffer a permanent injury, a serious or permanent injury, or certain other circumstances, such as if you're struck by a drunk driver, an out-of-state driver, or an uninsured motorist. So you are restricting your own right to sue another party in exchange for a lower premium rate. If you take the full tort option, there's no restriction placed on your right to sue. But as a result, your premium, it's probably about a 20% difference. It is a pretty significant difference in the premium. The reason this was instituted was the thought being that it would reduce the number of frivolous lawsuits statewide and thus driving insurance costs down, you know, for the state as a whole. So we discuss the difference between the two options with our clients, show them the premium difference, and really it comes down to a personal decision about your feelings on your right to sue another party if you're injured, whether you feel comfortable in giving up that right. Perhaps you're of the mindset that, you know, you would not want to sue someone anyway, unless it was a serious or permanent injury, or you know, some people just do not feel comfortable with being told that they would lose their right to sue if they were injured in an accident. So
I probably won't be back.
What is the percentage of automobile drivers out there that are not insured? And what can we do to protect ourselves against the uninsured motorists?
that's a very good question. I don't have a concrete number to give you, but I'm told that this particular area, the main line and western suburbs of Philadelphia, are at great risk for being in contact with an uninsured driver for several reasons. Philadelphia, automobile insurance premiums are extremely high. And, I think that probably encourages people to choose lower liability limits or, unfortunately for some people just to not carry automobile insurance. And there is definitely something you can do to protect yourself, and that is to make sure that you have adequate uninsured motorist coverage on your automobile policy. Then, a lot of insurance carriers allow you to purchase umbrella coverage. Right on your umbrella policy, you can add coverage for uninsured motorists and underinsured motorists. So that's important to make sure that you have coverage, adequate coverage for uninsured motorists on your policies. That protects you. So if you are struck by an uninsured or underinsured motorist and you would then collect whatever settlement you would have been entitled to collect from that at-fault party from your own policy through your uninsured motorist coverage, then your company worries, takes the steps to try to collect what they've paid out from the at-fault party.
So we are more or less penalized for the uninsured person that's driving. So my question then becomes, is there anything that the law or government or somebody can do about these people that are driving without insurance?
Well, we're hearing, nationwide, there are debates about what is the solution to that problem. The thought is trying to take steps to keep the premium rates reasonable in major cities, but that in turn also penalizes people who are not in the city because that is where the highest number of accidents occur. So, it's just it's a difficult question to answer, and at least there is a recourse for purchasing some coverage for yourself under your own policy, and it's not that expensive. The uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage is, is pretty reasonable compared to some of the other coverages on your policy.
The other issue on that is that it's probably been at least 20 years since in Pennsylvania the required limit of liability has changed. So if you buy an auto insurance policy in Pennsylvania, you can legally operate a vehicle with minimum limits of $15,000 for bodily injury and
$5,000 for property damage.
$5,000 for property damage to a third party. So you have someone who hits your car, chances are, and it's serious, chances are the damage to your vehicle is going to be more than $5,000 for starters, and a lot more than $15,000 for bodily injury if someone is seriously hurt. So someone can legally operate a vehicle in Pennsylvania at those limits, and that hasn't changed in years. And I think that's almost a bigger issue than people driving around without insurance. I mean, they can buy insurance for those limits, and it can be really inexpensive, but it's still woefully inadequate with today's costs.
I have one additional question on the general subject of auto insurance. One of the things that I see in my annual premium notices is the option for stacked or unstacked coverage. Maybe you could clarify what that means.
Yes. In Pennsylvania, they give you the option of having stacked or non-stacked uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. It is a way, by stacking the coverage, it is a way that you can increase your uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. You need to purchase coverage. It has to be equal to your liability limit, not greater than. So let's give an example of having $500,000 liability coverage. You can then purchase $500,000 in uninsured motorist coverage. But if you feel that you would like to increase that limit, you can choose to stack the limits, and that allows you to take the limit that you've chosen, the $500,000, and multiply it by the number of cars on your policy to give you the total available limit. So if you have 3 cars and you carry $500,000 liability coverage, you're able to choose uninsured motorist coverage at a limit of $500,000. Then, if you wanted to choose the stacked coverage, you pay an additional premium, but that would essentially give you $1,500,000 available coverage limit for uninsured motorist coverage. And then I mentioned also that another way to increase that would be to add uninsured motorist coverage to your umbrella policy. You can do one or both, or whatever you feel comfortable choosing for your uninsured motorist limit. Okay.
Any other questions? Well, great. Nancy, Ned, thank you very, very much. This has been a great presentation. You know, our offices, we're not licensed property casualty agents, so we're not really allowed to talk about these subjects with our clients. That's why we bring in experts like Nancy and Ned. But, you know, we encourage you to talk with your agents. You can talk with us conceptually about it because we have a good understanding of this, but certainly both of them are available, good resources if you need them. And they give you a lot of good information today, as well as there's an excellent handout that we're going to give you on the way out that will be, I think, very interesting for you to do some additional reading on these subjects. So anyway, thank you for coming. Look forward to having you and seeing you again. Have a great day.